What does trekking across Antarctica on foot by yourself and singing national anthems at NHL hockey games for most of your life have to do with Our Kids Play Hockey? Everything. It has everything to do with it. What a fantastic episode. We have Todd Carmichael and Carmichael-Hart on with us today, who have a child playing hockey, who have been in hockey their whole life and have accomplished some really amazing things, and how we can equate those things and those aspects of life, of work, of finding balance, and everything in between together into hockey. This is a tremendous conversation that you're going to want to hear today on Our Kids Play Hockey. And also, if you have not heard yet, we have done it. We have won Hockey Podcast of the Year through the Sports Podcast Awards, mainly because of your voting and your help and your listenership and your support of us throughout the entire year. All of us are ecstatic that we were honored with this award, and we just want to give a big thank you to all of you listeners, all of you participants for helping us get to the top of that mountain. It's it. You're listening to the Top Hockey Podcast right now. Let's get you into the episode. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by my favorite line mates, Mike Benelli and Christy Casciano-Burns, and we are privileged today to be joined by two exceptional people to talk about our favorite game and beyond. If you've ever been to a Philadelphia Flyers game or watched the movie Miracle, you've heard the voice of Carmichael-Hart. She was voted the best anthem singer in NHL history back in 2005, which is an undeniable fact, and has been a mainstay in Philadelphia as a singer and at Flyers games for her entire life, as her father, Gene Hart, was the Hall of Fame play-by-play announcer for the organization for many years. Lauren met her husband, Todd, also joining us today after an interview profiling his solo trek across Antarctica. I said that right. To the South Pole, on foot, with no assistance, capturing a world speed record, an event which was captured via the documentary Race to the Bottom of the Earth. And like most exceptional stories, it doesn't stop there. Todd is also the former CEO and co-founder of the very popular and award-winning La Colombe Coffee, and these pursuits have earned him the title of Esquire's American of the Year and Philadelphia's Person of the Year. But as we all know as hockey parents, the greatest adventure the two have embarked on are as mom and dad to their four children, Yemi, Yordi, Sella, and Beck, who plays hockey. Lots to uncover with these two. Lauren, Todd, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. We're excited to finally join you.
Well, it's exciting for me to have you on, as I said in the pre-show. And look, we're going to jump right in with the youth game of ice hockey. That's what we want to talk about today. You've both entered into the role of hockey parent. It's a unique role. So right off the bat, what has been the most exciting part of that journey and also the most concerning?
Well, I mean, the most exciting part for me is just that I have a child that loves hockey the way that I love hockey, and that really took to the sport. You know, all four of our kids were adopted from Ethiopia, where hockey is definitely not a thing, let alone an ice cube. So, you know, I was hoping that they would kind of like it, and, you know, maybe I was ready if they wouldn't, but all four of them really took to the sport as fans. And my little guy finally got the skates on, and he was the one to do it. And it's special for me because every time I watch him play, I'm like, oh my God, I wish my dad could see this, because it's just really amazing to have this kid with the big afro from around the other side of the world just get into the sport and love it the way that he does and do well at it. So that's
how old is he? Lauren, what level is he?
He just turned 12 on Tuesday, and he's a peewee.
Second year peewee, yeah.
You guys are still using the correct terms, which I love, by the way.
And he took right to the ice. Was there, did you have to kind of, convince him that this is going to be fun?
Well, he got grounded from hockey for his first year. That was between 5 and 6, because he wanted to respect the ice.
Happened?
Well, we took him to learn to skate. And he just wasn't having it. And so he was out in the center ice doing snow angels crying. And people were saying, oh, who's your kid? And I'm like, that's my guy. I'm sorry. He didn't want to participate. And finally, we, about a year later, we took him to a rink where he could put on the gear and carry a stick. And then that made sense to him. And then he took off from there. You know, I think it was the gear that really got him going. Mm-hmm. Right?
That was the whole thing. And he didn't want to listen to women. That was his problem. And so he was going to throw a fit. And I thought that was really disrespectful. And it was just clearly he wasn't developed, but I wanted him to understand you. If you're on this ice, it's a privilege, and you know, we're not going to push you. It's just not going to happen. So you're grounded. So we made him play soccer for a year, and he was really, really good at it, and that scared me. So then we got back on hockey, and within just a couple skates, his obsession began.
Yeah.
And his fire just lit hard.
Yeah.
Well, making him play soccer is a punishment. So we agree. We agree to that.
For you, though, that you recognize not to, even though, you know, deep inside, you're saying, gosh, I hope he takes the ice. We really want a hockey player. But you stepped back and said, no, you know, we're not going to push this on you. You have to earn it. You have to understand that you have to respect the game and the people around you. Good for you. I applaud you.
Yeah.
I hope more parents take that lesson with them.
Yeah, with 4 kids, they had choice. They had one sport, not 5. We can only handle one sport, 2 full-time, 24-hour, 7 jobs, and parents. So we feel like the kids just, if they don't love it, we want them to have an activity and have exercise and to be healthy. But if they don't love it, let's not do that.
Right.
You know, because it's not for us, it's for them, you know. So we kind of waited it out with all of our kids. The only one who I wished I had pushed a little bit is my oldest daughter, Yemi, who would have been a fabulous women's ice hockey player and a tough girl. But this is the interesting thing here is that I knew pro hockey. I didn't know anything about youth hockey.
Right.
I don't know if there were girls' teams around in the area, or, you know, learning to find out that we have some of the best young women hockey players growing up around here was like a whole thing. So it's been a learning curve for both of us, even though I grew up in the game. Youth hockey, totally different world.
Well, I was just saying, I share that sentiment. When I jumped into coaching my son, I remember telling the Mike coach, I don't know what I'm doing at this level. If you want me to teach upper level tactics and systems, I can do that. But these 8-year-olds are not interested in that. I'll also say you guys make a great point here. There are more hockey careers and lifelong hockey fans that have been born making snow angels on the ice and not wanting to participate than I think people want to admit. I think every parent wants that moment of my kid stepped on the ice and I knew from the second his blade touched the ice that he was going to be the one. And the truth is that's not how most of these journeys start. They start with oh no, that's so embarrassing.
Oh yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was there was something very humbling about it.
Right.
But you know, I'd say that's probably the best advice is that you continue also to always just follow your kid. You know, you're supporting your kid. If you find that you're pushing and pushing and pushing, you're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
You know, and in fact, if you stop pushing, you'll be surprised what they come up with themselves.
Right.
Let them set their goals. I mean, kind of sit down with them, but like let them set their goals and let them go. I mean, you're the support network. You're not their drive. Their drive has to come from within.
We're just the driver, but not the driver.
Yeah, you're
right?
totally the driver. Yeah.
Oh,
You're
you're taxi cab drivers, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
That's him.
You're their Ubers now. Mom, pick me up here. You've got so much going on. Balance is a challenge for all of us. Any tricks that you can pass along to parents who are fearful of taking on, you know, 4 kids in different sports and hockey, which is a demanding sport, no matter how you slice it?
Well, I know that I answered that question first. And I knew when my kids came to me and said, Dad, you don't understand. I don't play hockey. I'm a hockey player. And he was just so hungry for more privates, for more skate time, more tournaments. And he wanted to play in the AAA. I'd been asked that question so many times in my life as a CEO. And then when I looked over and realized there was more coming, I know one thing, there isn't any balance. There isn't. I think if that's your goal, you're just never going to achieve it. What you've done is you've entered a new life of not being in balance, but it's of scrambling to get everything done that you need to get done. I knew that part of that was stepping down as CEO. I mean, you mentioned it at the beginning that I was the CEO of La Colombe. I was, until my kid was ready to do what he wanted to do. So even to get remotely within that range of quote unquote balance, I just needed to cut something big out of my life.
Wow.
And then knew that I wouldn't really get there. I get up at 4 a.m. I do that. I mean, that's not balance. You don't have balanced sleep.
That's
I do
suffering.
not get up at 4 in the morning.
You're eating a lot of fast food. That's not balance. You're away from the house. I put 30 hours a week into it because that's what he wants. That's what he wants the support for. So I just kind of jack in the concept of balance and say, we're going to have that when everyone's retired and the kids are out of the house. But for the time being, let's just scramble.
Yeah.
I love the years of scrambling. I have to be honest. I look back now. My daughter just finished her hockey career in college. She just had her last game. And I look back and I went, how did we do it? But at the time, it was, it was stressful. It was hectic. Sometimes I thought I was just going to lose it. But you're looking back now, we made it work. And what drove us was our kids' passion and love for it. And that we found tremendous joy just watching them succeed.
And so I think the best message to anyone that's out there that's got this hockey thing in their life is like, it's okay. It's not in balance. That's normal. All of us are just pretending that it is, but it's not. So if you feel a little bit, kind of being whipped around a lot, you don't know which side is up, you're just like everyone else. It's okay. It's fine.
You know what I'll say here, guys, is this. I think balance is often misunderstood for priorities. All right. And you two have your priorities balanced and in order. So Todd, for example, your priority is your kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've always said that, when people ask me what's my definition of success, and I think they're expecting this grand answer. I said, I just want my kids to go to bed every night knowing that I love them and me knowing they love me. And if that's my priority, it's actually quite easy to quote unquote balance the rest, right? Because it helps you make decisions. Now, is that people equate balance with peace? That's not an option.
No, that is not an option.
It's not an option.
Not on the table.
Yeah. I guess depending how if peace is sitting with a margarita in a beach somewhere, you're in the wrong sport. But I think the key is, making sure that as a parent, you sit back and say, what are my priorities here? And this has nothing to do with what you do in life for a profession. It's got everything to do with, I love my kids and I want them to know that. And I think when that comes unhinged, or the appearance of it comes unhinged, because I really do believe anybody in the sport loves their kids. I don't think you can do this if you don't. But if you're trying to live your dream through them at the same time, or you're trying to set your standards on them at the wrong time, an 8-year-old's not ready for certain things. An 18-year-old is, right? You got to build that accountability over time and communication. By the way, with no promises that they're ever going to acknowledge that you did it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We asked ourselves that question. Is he
right.
going to recognize what we're doing?
Right.
He's old.
He will. They will.
They do. Yeah. Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry.
No. I just, growing up in the family and the household that I did, and growing up with singing, my mom drove me everywhere for auditions and back and forth to New York, even as a young teenager, and bands and all this stuff. And at the time, you just do it because that was my mom. That's what she did. But it didn't change until I had children, and I started doing the same thing for them, that I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to call my mom. I need to apologize. I need to thank her. So, but when Todd and I had the kids and we brought this family together, we had just made a commitment that they were it, and we both had pretty big lives, but this is the way we wanted to do it. And it all goes so fast that every time I'm tired of driving, or I'm like, oh, I got to go one more time, I just remember that it's going to all be over. And this is really like the joy of it is all this stuff, is the scramble, is the fast food with your little guy late at night.
Endless.
Yeah.
Endless
all those little moments are it. So you just
Right.
have to kind of hang on to all of them, because it will be done so fast. Yeah.
It's like Kobe said, that's the dream, right? It's not the championships or those championship moments. The dream is the grind. And yeah, I've called my mother and my father a few times since having kids and just apologized. And they go, for what? Just know that I'm sorry. And that, I always joke that I might have pushed back when I was younger or in high school, but I was always listening. I was always amazed at how much I applied that stuff after leaving the house, right? So parents, that's for all of you out there. The kids are probably listening, but they're never going to give you the credit or the acknowledgement that they're listening until later on. That's parenting.
It's true. And I think the thing that the thing, and I heard somebody say this the other day, and it might be corny, but the journey, the destination is the journey.
Right.
The destination is the journey. And I thought that was really, really poetic for me, because it applies to my career and to maybe your career. You know, it's the road. It's not what's at the end of the road. It's just the road. So
Right. That's not corny at all.
I was
Yeah,
just going to say that too, Christy.
That's beautiful.
So
now, the whole pushing your kid into hockey, though, I will say, I was still in Ethiopia trying to get back out of there. And she was building, meanwhile, a synthetic ice rink in the basement.
Well, and
he was 9 months old. Okay. So she had some preconceived notions, full boards, you know, the whole thing. So,
right. Lauren, I'm proud of you.
In case we needed one.
Just in case, you know.
Just in case. Yeah, you have the utility emergency hockey rink in the basement. I love that. Most of us have that now too. You know, I got to do this, Todd. Speaking of journeys, right, and destinations, what aspects of your expedition through Antarctica translate to business and or parenthood? I know it's kind of a large scope, but I'm looking to dig deep. I mean, to do what you did, and I look, there's plenty of documentation on that, so I don't want to dive into that. I'm talking about the mental aspect. How does that apply to everything that you two are doing now?
Oh, that's simple. I could draw parallels between ice and all that, and that's just hokey. But really what it is, and it's the reason why I made it and so many have failed, is because the reason was inside me. There was a purpose that I had inside me, and it was a love that transformed over the years into an obsession. And there was this obsessive kind of goal that I had in me. It wasn't something that was set on the outside. I wasn't doing it to be noticed or to have, you know, something to mention at a cocktail party, but it was something that I needed to do in me. And once I had that, I had all the fuel it took to do the near impossible. And, you know, as I watch my kid develop, I'm watching that love turn to that obsession, to the shots every night, and I'm seeing the same things kind of develop within him that will drive him the entire distance. Now, what distance that is, we've agreed it's to play hockey as high as you can, as long as you can. That's his goal. And for, I guess, in his is to trek across Antarctica as far as he can possibly get with that thing that he has inside, and he has it. Oof.
Yeah. He
has it. I don't have to furnish anything other than, you know, the millions of dollars that seemingly I pay.
It's more than that, bud.
Yeah. Do your kids ask about your major accomplishment? Do they want to know more about it, and does it inspire them? Because seeing what you were able to do, and by the way, that is a great mention at a cocktail party. You know, I mean, really, are you kidding me? Yeah. Drop the mic right there.
No, they're kids. You know, I think they think, for a long time, they used to think that every mother was this fantastic singer, you know, and every father was a guy who climbed Everest. You know, it was like, that was it. I mean, it's like, whatever. And, you know, and they've just kind of heard it, and it's just dad and mom. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. I think, you know, if I'm going to say anything egotistical, because we don't coach Beck, you know, we're his parents. We provide coaching for him. I don't like to go into that area because it never comes out well, right? He'll resist more than anything. I'm his dad, right? And that's his mom. You know, we're here for other things. They do, though, see our work ethic. I mean, we're not, you know, the type of people just, you know, fritz around the house in our slippers all day long. And so they see this work ethic, this application, and then they see things coming. And they know, oh, that's the technique of getting what you'd like. So I think they look at that as just an example of my work ethic. Then, wow.
Yeah, that's true.
So I want to pull a thread on this, because I think there's, I'm curious, right? We all want our kids, especially in hockey, really in general, to have that obsession, that drive. If you've ever felt that, you want your kids to have that. Mm-hmm. I'm curious. This is a question for both of you. We talked about having it. We talked about them having it. This answer might be simpler than people think, but how, as parents, do we help to cultivate that? Right. So, Todd, you're going into that a little bit, right? I mean, Lauren, you grew up in the game too, obviously. You've been around it your whole life. So how do you cultivate the dream once it's there? I don't think you can I know you can't. You cannot put the dream into your children. It has to organically build. But when it's there as parents, how do you cultivate that and get them to the level both of you have achieved?
So I said to Todd early on, I remember being his age in my room with a hairbrush singing, like as soon as school was done until I went to bed, and get up and do it every day and pretend I was the rock star and all these things. And I was very obsessed at a young age. Early on with the kids in sports, I didn't see that in them. And I would say to Todd, I'm like, this just could be for fun. They don't really have that. I know what it's like to have that thing where you just die if you don't do it. But I said, I don't really see that in all of them. That might not be their priority sports. Todd always said, just wait with Beck. I think you're wrong about that. And, the best thing that you can do to, promote your own or inspire your own kids is what Todd said, is living by example and just giving them the opportunities that might inspire them. As parents, you're their everything, but you might not be the one that can give that to them. So you put him with a coach or a program or a group of friends, or take him to somewhere that he can have the opportunity to explore his own ideas and to sort of fall in love with it. And it wasn't really long after that I was hearing the puck hit the wall off the basement until like 12 at night, and I'd have to go drag him out of there. So I think if you give them the opportunity and you stay positive about it, it's kind of, they will do it or they won't do it, but just give them the platform to succeed. That's it.
Yeah, that's so true. Just live by example and they will follow. And I've seen that with my own kids. I have a 27-year-old, and we just had this conversation yesterday because he landed this great job in Boston. He's getting his master's degree. He's doing so much, and he's helping his community as well, volunteer work. And I said, I'm really impressed by all that you've done. He goes, Mom, you and Dad have been my inspiration. I'm just doing what you guys did. He said, you are my role models. I was like, oh my God, it's not even Mother's Day yet. Oh,
They'll never affirm it while it's live. Nah, they won't affirm it, but they're absorbing it. For me, I'm at another level, which is, I don't think obsession can come if you don't already establish a love relationship with whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
You see it in human beings, I remember being younger, being obsessed by a girl in school or whatever. It starts with something that's not obsession. And so does trekking, and so does music. It starts with love. Love. She loved music. And if it's through that love that it starts to really kind of wind itself into obsession. Bring them to the place they really feel comfortable and they love, and they find friends, and they obsess over the vending machines as they want to get in, all that kind of, they love to be there. And before you know it, that's going to spin into something way bigger than just that love.
Yeah. And I can throw in, it didn't hurt that I took that little guy with me at 2 to hockey games with me all the time, walk down the hallways, and he would be getting high fives from Wayne Simmons and Sean Couturier and Carter-Hart. And that doesn't hurt either. I think a lot of kids that are really successful in the sport have had a parent that played. We don't play, but we certainly have a love and a connection to hockey. So that really, I think, was a big part of it.
Lauren, I was gonna say, I think we'll make an exception for you with the not playing thing and being around the game. And Todd, you both tapping on this, and I think it's an important message for the audience to reiterate. Your kids need to know what love is. This has nothing to do with sport, right? And they learn that from parents. Right. The definition of love, which is vast and romantic and a lot of things behind that. But depending on what your kid's definition of love is, and there's a lot of definitions, is probably how they're going to approach anything they want to do. And again, same thing with my son. We talked about this on the show before, guys, that, I was coaching my son, I was on the coaching staff for my son because it was during COVID. And I took a step back just to see what happened. And he found goaltending. And but he fell in love with it. He fell in love with it. And you could see, as you two were talking, you could see the switch turn on. And it was funny because, and I had no problem backing up a bit. It wasn't a problem for me. I think some parents have a problem with it. They want to be on top of it, but he found goaltending, and I love it because I'm kind of experiencing it with him. But my message to parents is this, all right, based on what you're saying too. One is you have to recognize if it's not their thing, number one, that's okay. right? I think we have to, if it's your thing and not their thing, that's okay. Number two is that some kids love it the second they step on the ice. Sometimes it takes time. And to cultivate an enjoyment and love for things, that's okay too. It does not happen overnight all the time, just like relationships, right? I mean, I met my wife a year before we started dating, right? Your origin story together though is pretty awesome. I will say that if I have it right, you guys met on an interview. Todd, you called to set up a date while you were in Antarctica, correct? And then you guys were engaged a month later. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, that happened fast.
Yeah.
Start a new podcast about awesome romantic get-togethers. Lauren, I wanted to ask you this again. You were alluding to it. You've literally grown up around the game your whole life. What are some of the changes you've seen over the years? I know there's a lot, right? But what are some of the changes you've seen from your point of view in the game?
I mean, there's just so many. I don't even know where to begin on that one. You know, for me personally, within the game itself, it's obviously bigger and faster and stronger and different rules and different calibers of players and, you know, styles of play now are changed. But what it is to me is that how I saw it change over the years. So I went from being the kid that walked down the hallway with like these big eyes, you know, I would follow my dad. I was like so proud to just follow him and watch what he did and sit in the press room and sit in the press box and then go after the game and see these awesome players in the hallway, you know, superstars. And, you know, I didn't say anything or do anything, but just to be there in that moment, you know. And then from growing up and being an artist myself, and then coming full circle, when my dad got inducted to the Hall of Fame, I came back to the Flyers, and that's really how I jumped into with them again. To see it now as an adult, and to see all these guys who I looked up to, who were like father figures, you know, walking down the hallway, and to know all the players that I've been able to sing right in front of over the years, from Wayne Gretzky to everybody, Lemieux. I mean, for me, it's just been like a crazy personal journey, and now to have my kid at the end of that do the same thing, it's like it's magic.
Right. So the legacy continues.
And we should probably add, you know, because this is a hockey family in every context, every one of us. There is a game recap or a game live of some level being playing on our TV at any given time.
This is true.
We have the NHL channel playing 24/7 in the house, in the cars, constantly. We are bathed in it as a family. Yeah. And then we'll stop that once in a while for a movie, and then we'll go right back to hockey.
Right.
It's like we're watching, hey, who wants to see the vintage game from '86? I mean, this is kind of a weird family. All the kids have really got the bug. Mm-hmm. Even though we don't all play it, we're all hockey people. Yeah, I mean, I have a 13-year-old girl who can break down a play. You know, and so you go, okay, it's just because she's in it, like she was in it. We live in this world of hockey. Yeah.
So you guys are finally on the right podcast, is what you're saying. That's
exactly.
Because everyone on here relates to that completely. I was just gonna say
people. Yeah, it's true.
It's hockey can become a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. Yeah. Look, there's a great quote I heard years ago that hockey's not something you do, it's something you are. And I always say, if you're involved in the game, you really, really understand that, because it's a little bit more than a sport. It's a passion, it's obsession, as you both said before. There's really no ways around it. And I think that one of the reasons we did this show is because there's a community out there that really doesn't have a voice within that spectrum, right? No puns intended on both of that, by the way, Lauren. That worked out there. Lauren, I have to ask this question because we were talking about it. You have been involved in some of the most important games in Flyers history. And for those of you who don't know, there's an aura around the anthem and God Bless America in Philadelphia. And the fans, and I'm sure the organization at times, look to you to set the tone for games. I mean, it's a big deal. Everyone knows who you are in this city. So what I want to know is this. It's a playoff game. It's a big moment. You've been tasked with this. We set the tone. How do you prepare for that mentally? You know, how do you get yourself to the level you need to? Because look, this is I equate the same thing as a pro athlete, right? You have got to do your job in that moment. How do you do that?
Well, I think, I've done it so long, so many times that people say, "Oh, Munch, you just can do this in your sleep," and the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
I mean, I work at it all the time. I practice all the time still. I sing that song all the time, even when I'm not there, just to see how I can do it better and make it a little, keep it, traditional, but still make it exciting. And, I put a lot of thought into it. So by the time I get out there, that extra bump in a serious playoff, important game, you just feed off the crowd energy.
Right.
So you come out as best prepared as you can, knowing your stuff upside down, and then when you get out there, it's the fans and the moment that elevate the whole thing. They bring it to that next level. And it's kind of like is an exchange. You just feed off of it. And I'm sure if you've played hockey or anywhere, when you have a crowd and people are like, really into it, it's thrilling. I mean, I wish everybody had a job where when they got to work, people stood up and applauded them, because you would have a better day.
Right.
I mean, it's just a really unique position and a really really just I hope I get to sing in those moments again.
You will.
But yeah, I think it's really fortunate and lucky to get to do it. So.
Let me add this,
please.
So,
Yeah.
I was an insider, right? So I married this girl. It was a strike. I mean, I hadn't seen. We saw the Calder Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the Phantoms won the Calder Cup. The strike was, came on halfway through that season. So I'd really never seen it. Never saw her sing. What I never saw her do either was prepare. And I thought that was just for the first game. It must be this way for the first game, and then the second game. No. This is how she gets it. It begins. If puck drop is 7:15, 7:30. She starts at 3.
Mm-hmm.
The whole day. Everyone gets out of her way. I mean, she has something to do. She has her routine, her ritual, just like a player. And it's knocked down. I won't drive with her there. I won't do any. She's in that zone. And not until she sang, and she's at the end, she usually stands in the tunnel for about 4 or 5 minutes just to calm down and watch the players play, that she becomes mom or my wife again. She is.
We're uncovering exactly what I was hoping to, is that, first off, Lauren, you do make it look easy, but nothing that looks easy is easy. It takes a lot of time and preparation. And this is exactly the same thing we hear from anybody, athletes, people, right? There is prep, there is time, and you practice hard so that the games literally look easy. Right. And I'll say this too, that, obviously recording this in 2023, Flyers are not in the best spot right now. I haven't been for a few years, but I'll tell you what, in times like this, as fans, we grasp for anything familiar or anything to remind us. And you do that every night. That might actually be harder than probably the big games. I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
It definitely is. It
Yeah.
definitely is. I sing that song, but I am an uber fan. I mean,
right.
I live and die that team, and the orange and black and hockey.
Right.
Overall. So I'm just as much as a fan as anybody is. And I feel what they're feeling. I know what they're feeling. I've spent my whole life waiting for these moments to occur. And so they're frustrated and, but at least in that moment, we get a fresh start tonight. Let's see what can happen,
Right.
So it is harder to do it now than it is to do it when everything's perfect and great.
The one guarantee is that at the Wells Fargo Center, or whatever it's called in the future, there will be a cheer right before puck drop when you are done singing that national anthem every night. And I want you to know, as a Flyers fan, how comforting it is to still hear you, because it obviously reminds us of the past, but it is something stable that is part of that organization that has not changed. And I don't mean not just changed because it's there, but the level of it every night is still there. So I think there's a lesson there, right? As through the good times and the bad times, the consistency, the preparation, and knowing I still have to do what I need to do to perform tonight, right, is important. So I wanted to talk about that for a few minutes. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Mike, you've been quiet for a while. We're not letting you do anything, but I want to make sure you guys go too. I just want to make sure I brought that up.
I'm going to talk about Beck and his hockey.
Yeah.
So he has an elaborate routine, and I know exactly where it came from. His routine is so strict before a game, and it starts hours before. And he's in the zone. He's wearing the headset. He's got the whole thing down. I know what he's doing. He's learning from his mom. This is the way it's done. and it's true. It works for him, and he will not modify it at all.
Right.
It's just there's no modification
There's none.
to
Yeah.
his routine.
Right. Well, I was just listening to Derek Jeter talk about his success. Right. I'll try and take it outside Philadelphia, everybody, for a minute, because I know we have the listeners out there. But Jeter talked about his entire career having the exact same routine through good times and bad times, no matter what. And he equates that to his success. He goes, I was beyond disciplined with it. I never changed it up. And this goes back to what you two were saying before about they're watching. The kids are always watching. I think about, my father, my mother, and the way they worked and the way they stayed in shape and the way they did things. I do the same things. It shouldn't be a shock. Right.
And that comes to the biggest point of what I feel. And I feel like Todd feels the same way. The biggest thing as a hockey parent, what you can do for your kid is to show them some stability and teach them the consistency and teach them to just mature as young men and young women and teach them how to be good, strong people. And that translates into the game. So as the parent, all that preparation and your work ethic and how you look at something and approach something and trying to be better than the night before, or, try to always think about ways of improving. I think it's just those philosophies rather than you should shoot the puck this way and why didn't you do that? And, maybe you should try, flipping around I don't know, so as opposed to giving them hockey tips, which we probably both could, we know the game enough, but we try not to, we try not to do that. We try to give them all the other things because we know watching athletes that this is, if you don't have this, you're not going anywhere. So to really just give your kids a good support system and teach them to be strong and consistent young girls and boys.
Now, Lauren, I've been to a lot of hockey games in Philadelphia, and all the fans yell to shoot the puck. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, dude, that's the truth.
Yeah,
it's true.
My favorite, shoot the puck's my favorite. I think my favorite one is skate.
I yelled that one out. I yelled that because they need to hear that, because sometimes they forget that they need to skate in order to score. So
Christy,
I do that.
I think sometimes at that level.
Skate,
I love
me.
I love the audacity.
They don't know they're supposed to do that, you see.
I love the audacity of Philly fans just yelling at the NHL players, shoot, skate. Like, thanks, guys.
Yeah. That's me.
That's the hi, it's me. You're the problem. No. I want to, Lauren, you just brought this up. Mike, I'm not trying to keep you up, but Lauren did bring this up and I want to talk about this. We know that mental fitness and mental health are today the top concern for youth athletes. It's been polled many times, but we're not talking about it enough. And again, you are both often in positions where you're going to affect the lives and impact people. So how do you practice your mental fitness, and how important is it obviously to your success?
My mental fitness is threadbare right now. It's the classics. I think that once you start taking care of the thing that you live with, which is your body, that's a big piece of it, right? And it's also, I think, expressing your connection to the world and how you connect, what makes you feel. So we're connecting to the world through different things, not just hockey, right? But one big one is hockey. I think relationship and relying on other people is a big one. So they see that, they see that, you ultimately, you stay healthy by engaging the world in a positive way. And that includes the family and people that are close to you. That's what seems to help me keep healthy,
And just, we always talk about the metaphor of life in sports. My dad said that to me often, and I thought it was just, Dad, just stop telling me that. But now, we do see it. So in gymnastics or in hockey, when the things don't go the way the kid wants them to, or things happen differently or changes, it's all those life lessons that you can take the opportunity to teach. And those are really great moments, because so if the game didn't end the way they wanted, it's the same old simple things. It's like, what happens when you don't get what you want? Do you walk away? Do you keep moving forward? But, it's those like simple things. And
we could talk about Bex. Okay. So Beck's an over 100-point kid, right? And, really dynamic player, very left winger a lot. And he had a 5 or 6 game drought this year. and it was unwinding him hard. He was having such a hard time because he'd never really experienced things like that, right? Suddenly. And the way we dealt with it was skate hard. That's the solution to anything. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. That's usually the answer, right? And then he found his place and he found his drought was over, and then mentally he was strong again. But he was mentally really frail there near the end.
Yeah, and to put your kids with the best coaches and the best, parents, to look for coaches that maybe not the winningest team, maybe not the most popular team, but put your kids where they're going to really learn and where they're going to be mentally supported, where they have a good, healthy attitude towards playing the game of hockey and what it means at this age, at 11 and 12 years old. So it's all perspective.
Right. And Mike, I think you can jump in here because you know a lot about that, about the importance of finding the right coaches. They're going to bring that out in your kids and not make them feel like they're failures if they're not scoring, right? That there's always that mental fortitude that you need too, that it's okay. We all go through these droughts. I've seen it with my kids too. Going game after game, not scoring, then all of a sudden they score and they got it back, but you got to help them through that time when they're in those drought periods. That's really important to step in.
Yeah, no, I love the message of, you want to find the right program for your kid. Doesn't have to be the right program for everybody else's kid. And
Right.
at this age, at 12U and 14 and 8, it's really more about who are the men and women and the adults that you're putting your kids with that mirror, your goals and your expectations and your just the way you live, your value system. Like, you look at somebody and go, okay, yeah, no, the guy, yeah, he wins, I guess, but he doesn't play everyone. Or even my own kid is like, I'm the best kid on the team and I want this other kid to play. Like, why isn't this kid playing? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I just had a burning question though. So I want to go back to the national anthem because I want to know, because I'm in a region where I think it's so disrespectful when I hear the national anthem not be completed in an arena. That's just my opinion. And that's like, that to me has to be such a mental thing for you when you're singing and somebody wants to yell out something in the song. Like when you're, I know in other arenas, there's certain areas of the national anthem, and here you are a seasoned, you do this every day, right? But what advice would you give, even as a player, right? You're in the moment. Like, how do you wash all that out? I mean, obviously it's practice, but how do you just, like, how do singers not understand that there's 18,000 other people in the arena that are yelling whatever out, and it's pretty loud? To me, it sounds like you could hear it pretty clear.
You can. Well, fortunately for me in Philly, people yell prior to the anthem and then after the anthem.
Okay.
Every city has its own traditions and their own ways of doing things. I would say that I'm happy that we just let the song be what it is. I took the advice from my father very long time ago when he said, just sing the song and just sing it the way it's supposed to be sung. It's about everybody, not just about you. And so I like that we have that one moment, and when we do have those kind of distracting things like explosions going off or things like that, a few times I haven't been warned ahead of time, and yeah, that's really distracting and horrifying, but you just keep going. But
Winter Classic maybe, or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I love the fact that a player can see that too. Like when you hear players that are in the game, like, and then the whistle, like even at the youth level, and to block out mom, yelling, skate, 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 you got to listen to me, or you've got to pay. Like, it's a real art. Right. To block that out and say, I'm in my moment. I'm playing my game. And I think coming from a professional like you, I think that's a great thing a player can learn. Like, hey, listen, here's some woman belting out this song and there's all this other stuff going on around him. Like me, I hate, I hate that personally, like yelling in the anthem. But if you're going to do it, it's amazing that the singers and the professionals in that space can kind of trudge through that. And I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think in a sports environment, you got to expect anything. It's not Carnegie Hall where we're all seated and
everybody's not waiting. Yeah.
Right. So it kind of comes with the territory that, anything could happen.
I put it on par with shoot. You know what I mean? Telling pro athlete of that caliber when he should fire on the puck. You know, it's like, to me, I can't believe it. Or a scream over an Anthems. Both are kind of on par. It's very amateur. I don't like
Yeah, well, I love so where I am in New York, it's always about like, how come you didn't get in front of that shot? I don't know why you get in front of the shot. You know, you're the 250 guy up here in the blue seats. But the other thing I guess I would want to know too is really, I mean, maybe for you, Todd, like, do you get asked to, like, that's a huge accomplishment what you did, right? So finding, like, knowing you have to prepare and research and, you know, do all the pieces that a lot of us as coaches want to teach our kids, that's the season, right? It's you don't just go to Antarctica and say, shoot, I'm gonna go you know, just put on my boots and I'm gonna wing it. Let's see if I can make it. Like the preparation that goes in it. I mean, obviously we all know how hard that is and how extraordinary it is, but maybe just like, how would you speak to a team, you know, going into a season about that lesson about, you know, again, it's all about, I understand coming out, you know, over adversity and getting through, you know, your own doubts and maybe where you are, but you obviously went in knowing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to accomplish it. And you've already, I'm assuming you already had finished it in your head before you started your journey.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely, you know, and it takes about 4 years to do something like that. So the preparation, the rest of it, your body, your attempts, you know, you do 100 miles, then you do 350 miles, then you do 700 nautical miles all by yourself, right? So ultimately it's endurance, right? That's what you're doing. You're doing an extreme kind of endurance. And I make it very clear to my son that hockey is an endurance sport. It's, you know, I see these dads, like, it's like they're living on their stock portfolios day by day. It goes up and down, you know, they're just going nuts. When in fact, this is hockey. You know, I've been looking at my kid and planned out how he would get where he's at. And I know exactly pretty much which direction he's gone for the last 5 years. This is endurance. We're looking at the long range for him. It's not just this game, this shift, this period. Everyone thinks it's a sprint. It's not. It's a long road.
Yeah, and in that preparation, sorry, I jumped in there, but in that preparation, you know, and all that time beforehand, like in my case, the reward is the song, is the minute and a half. That's the reward you get for all that hard work you do. The reward for all the hard work that Beck does, the reward is the game. Right. And then if you get really lucky, maybe you do something really great that you feel amazing about in the game. But that's the reward. The work is hockey. The work is music. The work is trekking.
In fact, to share that experience, you know, there's one thing I missed that terrible. I sent it, you know, the tent that I used to get across the ice, I set up in my backyard. Okay. I'm not a really crying kind of guy. I'm a farm boy, right? So I got in my little tent, zipped it up, cried like a baby because I missed it. I missed being there. I missed the agony of losing 65 pounds. Of freezing my left eye, left way, my hands frostbitten. I missed the torture of trying to get to the pole.
I can say I did not miss that.
I'm with you, Lauren.
But that's the message, right? That it's a real long trek. It's not, you know, you get on the ice. It's not, oh, I can understand why my kid is not getting drafted this week. Like, it's not how it, you know, like what happened? Like the exposure camp didn't get me exposure. No, it's a process. It's a long journey. And I think as parents, if we can, and as coaches and as organizers and youth, you know, association people, we can lay that groundwork out and show people the path. And I guess that was my point, is like, obviously the junior flyers and the little flyers and all these other organizations, they do a great job of showing the path. Like it just doesn't start, like you can see the other end. It's not like, you know, we all go into this and you guys coming from, you know, especially you, Lauren, coming from a hockey family, you understood there's a journey, but a lot of us don't. Like, a lot of parents don't understand. They get in going, I don't even know what next year is. Like, what do I even do next year? So I think part of the organization and knowing, like, what is that long-term journey, and knowing that it doesn't end or start at 8 and 9. It well, in a lot of our cases, it goes on forever.
Just say, right? It doesn't end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, there was this one part of your question that you asked. You said, "Did you envision yourself there already?" Yes. Before the first step, I considered it like a football. I said, all I have to do is make sure that no one knocks this out of my hands. No. This is mine.
That's awesome.
It's my pocket. I always, like Lauren and I say it, you say, that's my puck. Like the great one used to say, that's my puck.
Right.
You're on a
Were there
PK.
moments though that you just wanted to quit and say, I can't do this anymore? I'm at my breaking point. Did that happen to you along the way?
There was one soft moment is when I called Lauren from the sat phone. It was Thanksgiving. And it was 100 below and it was blowing like 60 knots. And
Jeez.
I had a weak moment. And she just slapped me one, man. Like she just knocked the like, oh, poor me right out of me, man. She had no sympathy. Rub some dirt in it and keep going. Like, it was just like, you put me through all this, and now you give me this, she used words that I rarely hear, and just knocked that silliness out of me.
Todd, what's funny? I was just watching
And
a
there's that
documentary.
support network that you need.
I-
And we can that way with our
I
children.
never wanted him to go there again.
Right.
I'm like, well, now it's not
This is
happening
it.
again.
You're done. You're done.
I was just watching a
Get
great
over
documentary
it.
about Nolan Ryan, and his kids say it was their mom, it's his wife. That's one of the reasons he was able to do what he did and do it for so long. The connections we make along the way are so important, and the ability to have people with you. Nobody survives or succeeds by themselves, and everyone who tries to do that. I know people that, and I'm going to kind of merge a question together here. I know people that think it is brave to go at it alone. And I mean, in every aspect. I don't mean trekking alone, Todd. I mean, I can do this by myself. And I don't actually believe that to be courageous. I think courageous is having to put trust in other people to help you along the way. To me, that's courage because you're making yourself vulnerable. So, Todd, even though you said, oh, it was a soft moment, it's actually a moment of strength, wasn't it? Right? Because you had Lauren, you had to find that way through that, right? And you chose to call her. Right. So something inside of you said, no, I need this. That's courage to me. There's so many people that just go, nope, that's it. I'm done. And I didn't hurt anybody along the way because I didn't trust anybody. That it's just not a way to succeed. And this is kind of the question, or the point, I guess. I talk a lot about the difference between competing and competition and how you have to learn to compete. And that's one of the things I try and teach my kids. Is that there's a joy in competing. There's a reason to have gratitude to have an opponent, whether the opponent is a team or what was it, 100 below with 65. The gift of adversity and having to see it that way, and then knowing you can rely on someone to help you through that. Man, if you can look at it like that, what a gift, right? How important is that? I'll throw it back to you two. There's a lot of thoughts there, but I wanted to say that.
No, I see that. But there is some very special magic in the idea of goals that I learned as a young athlete, and that it's very settling because then you only really have to worry about the present once you've set your goal. Then once in a while you look up for your bearings, and in a lot of ways it's important to see yourself already at that goal. And I think we've touched on a little bit throughout this conversation. That, yeah, it's done. All I need to do is to work. All I need to do is just grind it out.
Right.
And I will arrive here.
Well, there's a reason. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And then it happens once. Then it happens twice. Then it happens in the third season.
Right.
And after a while, there's that path that you're talking about. I can pretty much grind it out to get to anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, but that's why it's so important, like your neck of the woods, like the Ed Schneider Foundation. It is very true that if you can see it, you can be it. Like if you can visualize what this is, if you want diversity in the sport, you have to show diversity in the sport, and you have to show the success of diversity in the sport. You can't just say, "Oh, hockey's for everyone." Well, who? I don't see anybody playing hockey. So I think it's so great that you guys are in. Well, number one, where you're at, and even in your own family. You're bringing that diversity front and center, and then having the community in Philadelphia that actually not only supports that, but encourages it and is promoting, and living walking the talk. And I think that's so important and really gratifying. I mean, you don't see that in every community, but it's really cool that you see it in your community for sure.
It is. And like you said, with the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey, it was a simple concept. Just bring hockey to people that don't get hockey or don't have the opportunity to play hockey. Just give people the opportunity. So that's like what we go back to saying, what do you teach your kids and what can you give them? Give them the opportunity, and they'll show you the way, and they'll find, and then you just keep supporting them to be the best that they can be. I mean, Beck could not do this without Todd. I mean, Todd's up at, like he said, 4 a.m. and driving all over the place. I'm on gymnastics duty. He's the hockey guy. I just get to go to the reward, which is the games. And once in a while, a tournament. But, I mean, that's the best thing that you can do. Opportunity, support, and guidance, and it's not to say, let's be honest, we're also not the parents that say, scoring doesn't matter and this doesn't matter,
No, it matters.
It does matter because the kids want to score, and if the
It's like a
kids,
goalie stopping the puck doesn't matter.
Right.
It does.
Yes. So we're not all like, oh, everything's fine, win or lose, we're honest parents. Like inside, I want my kid to tear it up, but I that's inside.
Right.
And if he does, I'm thrilled for him. And if he doesn't, I'm like, oh, he's going to play again tomorrow. It's all good, And so I think as parents, when you said balance in the very, very beginning, the balance is for the parents, to know how much to be in there and how much to be back here.
Oh, that kind of balance. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. My great advice, and I think most of us do, that is that, right after a game is not the time to talk to your kid about his play. It's just not. It's never going to go good. Don't reward him if he had a bad game. Don't say he had a good game. Be honest.
Right.
But don't tell him he had a bad game because he's probably not going to give you the opportunity. Just say, hey man, I know what I'm like. He says, buy me a beer. In this case, I say, you want a Slurpee? So we go get Slurpees. That's it. There's going to be other days, and if he asks the question, just don't overload it.
Right.
I mean, he's really interested in this sport. He knows. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows. Don't make it worse.
I'll tell you both, one of our most popular episodes ever is titled "The Car Ride is Not for Coaching."
Oh, yeah, totally, dude.
Right.
Oh, I so agree with that one.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, you guys bring a great point. I think we gloss on this a lot and we bring it up, and I think we've all lived it. And I think that the messaging gets a little cloudy from it doesn't matter if you win and lose to not caring about whether you're winning. Like, I think you want to care, like, and in cross ice mites, and it's like, there's no score kept, but the kids know the score, the score, I know the score. Like, we want them to win and compete, but it's not the thing that ends and defines them. Like, it's I want you to go out and kick butt. Yes, of course. It's a sport. Just like if you were in a spelling bee, I don't want you to be the one kid that can't spell cat. I want you to spell words like that are hard. Right. Do well in that, right? But I think I think a lot of it gets clouded. I know for me personally, the cloudiness comes from, well, he doesn't care about winning. Like, he doesn't care about competing. He wants everybody to be, roses and sunshine and everybody be happy and everything's fair. That's nothing about me. Or the movement of sport.
Yeah.
Don't let it define you. Care and compete, and then when you fail, learn. And then find a way to not, to fix that. So I think I know every time we have a conversation with, high performers, the high performers are there because they've been surrounded by people that say, don't settle for losing. But when you do lose, understand what the growth is from that, not, just give up.
Mike, it comes down to how you define winning, right? And I think that's what we're all talking about, because you guys are saying goals matter, and they do. But how do you define winning? Because I'll tell you right now, like with the mites, winning to me is, did you do everything you could the whole game? Because here's the thing, in mites, the score is somewhat irrelevant, but the win for me is, did you do everything you could to try and win the game? Or more importantly, we're down 7 goals. Are you still doing everything you can? Because that's what's going to translate to the next level. You talked about goaltending. These are conversations I've had with my kid. Like, you can't stop. It doesn't matter what the score is, but you can never stop in that position. Right. And he's learned that, right. That's probably the greatest win for me. I'm with you guys though too. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And they keep on learning that even at the college level. My daughter's team was in, a funk, losing streak, but they overcame that. And they, you know what they did? They worked harder. They did more practices. They learned how to, build that chemistry so that they could overcome that slump. So even as young as, 6 and 7 year olds, that carries on to when they're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And it's kind of a beautiful thing to see, especially
Right.
when they learn that lesson so early on. It's going to stay with them throughout their hockey career. And that's a neat thing to see.
And that's what I was going to say, to your point, is really gratifying as parents, is when you're trying to instill a life lesson or something in your kid, and then they get it.
Right.
Right. They get it. They get it. And what's also a beautiful thing, you mentioned the Ed Snyder, and they're trying to grow the game and to make it more inclusive. And even at the college level, my daughter is, part of a college hockey diversity committee. So even at that level, and it's coming from the kids, it's not coming from adults, it's not coming from the experts, it's not coming from organizations, it's coming from within each and every one of them wanting to come together and saying, you know what? We need to fix this. This is wrong, and we want to make it better for everybody. So it's very gratifying to see your kids grow into these really cool adults.
It is. It's true.
We've heard the comment. I've heard it from Beck. Because we go out, the cornfields sometimes and we play, and we're driving like, oh my God, maybe people like us don't belong here, right? He turned and he said, "Dead on the ice, everyone's the same color." Huh?
Mm.
He said it. He said it out there. It doesn't matter. Like it's where I think he feels, the most like in common with everybody around him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like at school.
And they love hockey. That's what they share. And they find common ground, common ice. Yeah.
Well, a sweet toe drag, it don't matter, right? So it's kind of like one of those. So it's funny that we're pushing towards diversity, which obviously is a great thing. But it's also interesting how the rink becomes this equalizer.
That's true.
And kids of all colors and stripes and the rest of it can fill out.
That's why it's when people aren't in sport or aren't in the military or aren't in places where it doesn't matter what color you are, you have to help me. Like, I don't care what color you are. You need to help me win this game, like, or win this battle, or win. Like, that's what's so great about, like, in our world, sport is, as long as you have a great locker room and you hear it at the highest levels, like most people, like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, that doesn't happen here. Like, we're fighting for each other. I don't even know what religion this person is. It doesn't matter to me. I just know the person's here battling with me. So I get to your point. It just, that's the common denominator, why we want to put our kids in sports. We want them to be, and I hope that when a player leaves that community, doesn't experience it that. I think that's the whole push on diversity and inclusion, is that it's the education that when we can control in our own area, but what can we do when we go out to other areas that maybe don't have those same value system? And we have to, that's education. That's what the job is. Cause it's a very, I think it's, for somebody like me who coaches at all in all races and ethnicities, it's more uncomfortable for me because I'm like, well, I don't even know, like, can't even accept this. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. So how do I fight this within like our own community, which in my case is the hockey community. Right. I did have one hockey mom question, Lauren. So how many times do you get asked to sing the national anthem at the youth hockey event? Ever?
Well, tell her what happened last night.
Well,
because I tell her right now, if I found out you were in my organization, I'm like, oh, this is golden.
We're not losing a game.
Well, Beck's team played at the Wells Fargo Center like prior to a Flyers game. And it was just his team, playing, scrimmaging, and they asked me to sing. So I sang for them that one time. And last night, his team had actually won the championships, the Atlantic Youth Hockey Championship. And so they were invited to sit on the bench for the EHL, for the junior playoffs, and kind of cheer on the little Flyers for the start of their playoffs. And so last night, since Beck was there on the bench, I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll sing. So I did sing last night, and they won, which was very exciting.
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, of course.
And I was surprised because if I would ever say, hey, do you mind if I go say a few words on the mic? He would be horrified, right? He doesn't even, he has to walk.
I would like to give a couple of inspirational, real quotes about trekking across Antarctica. No. Don't ever do that, Dad.
No.
That's beautiful. What a treasured moment for you, though. What a great memory. And Beck must have just been beaming. That's my mom.
Well, and I wasn't sure whether I should do it or not because that's his arena.
Yeah.
That's his thing. And I'm just the spectator there. And I don't want to jump in on his thing. And when Todd told him that I would be singing, he was like, really? He thought it was
Ah,
really cool.
And
So I was like,
that's what I'm
yes.
saying. So I watched it all from the bar. No, I'm kidding.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, must have been on rink 3 then. No,
it was, and singing and looking to the right and seeing that my little
Ah.
guy with all these, kids that he aspires to, do that too. And to
right.
see him right on the ice with me is like,
So
it's
cool.
everything. Yeah, that was great.
The treasured moment when you've sung at a lot of games. Last question for me, my friends, is that best part of a team sport, I'm not going to equate this just to hockey, is the people. You get to be part of the team, right? That's what you remember. Both of you are in very special positions where you really bring people together. Lauren, I think what's special about the anthem still, and this has been tested in recent years nationally, is that for 2 minutes, we're all kind of together. We're trying to believe in something together. Mike, to your point, Philadelphia, there's a lot of respect for that moment. I mean, there's other places where it's different, but I think there's a solace when the anthem is sung that we are together for that amount of time. And I think my belief is people are yearning for that now more than ever. Todd, to your point too, you've created a business that literally brings people together. What can we do as a society, as people, to create more moments like that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Well, I mean, I just think when you're afforded the opportunity, you might not have the same opportunities that Todd does or I do, but when you're afforded the opportunity to do something like that or be that person, to take that moment and to step up and be, and for everybody to do it, everybody has the capabilities, right? And the opportunities to do those kind of things, just because we're more in the spotlight, it could be extremely the opposite. We could come in there and just be like, no, we don't really want to talk to anybody. And we're here, but I think just as parents to extend yourself to others and to be open to new situations. And I think if you're like the happy and you keep the positive for parents, because it can get really intense, it can get really intense. But if you kind of keep the calm and keep the humor there and the lightheartedness there, I think that's the best thing that you can possibly do.
I mean, when I look at across it in the big picture,
Yeah.
what I find is that it's kind of tied into competition. I think that folks are more interested in winning an argument than finding the truth. I think that people have misplaced their sense of competition. Their sense of competition should be on something more, I don't know, rewarding, like hockey, or like, challenging themselves to achieve something different in their lives. That's sort of internal or external competition, not in having a knockdown, drag out, just to win a point against the other team. And I think that's what it is. I think that people are misplacing their sense of competition right now, and they're turning it against their neighbor. Look at hockey dads, man. We are all stripes. We are all different. I mean, my God, we are all over the range. You got crazy this side, you got crazy this side, you got the grown-ups in the middle like me. No, anyway, we tend to get along because they're starting to you watch them even over a season, move that sense of competition away from making some stupid point that they read on the internet, and that their competition is somewhere else. If we all just play hockey, we could get along.
We'll put that on a t-shirt. Now, Todd, I'll tell you, in both of you, it's a great answer. And I think you're right. I think that part of the problem, Lauren, you kind of spoke to this in a positive way, is that everyone's looking for someone else to do it, or they're waiting for someone else to do it. And the truth is we all just have to do it as individuals. And then through the community, it will go out there. And then Todd, to your point too, there's so much ego in I'm right, you're wrong, other than, hey, I'd love to just learn your point of view and I might not agree with it, right? And we'll learn and we'll move forward together. And that's hockey dads 101. He should have done this. No, he should have done that. Shoot the puck. That's basically what it sounds like. But it's a wonderful answer, and I wanted to ask you to that because I think you guys are champions of that arena. Bringing people together. I mean, and that's the gift, Lauren. Again, and Todd Lockholm does it too. But Lauren, like that is my favorite, one of my favorite moments of a game is we're all together in respect, believing in something. Some people are saluting. Some people have their hand on their chest. Some people are just listening, but we all remove our hats and we do that together. And I think we need more things like that right now.
And in that moment, we are all, no matter what your team is doing that season, in that moment, it's hopeful, right? It's hopeful. Anything can happen during a game.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. So before it even starts, you have that feeling we're all together. We're a team, metaphorically or actually, and that, we hope what in front of us is going to make this day better. And we're just in that really good place. It's hard to stay there.
Right.
It's really hard to stay there, but creating moments like that every once in a while, I mean, that's a pretty big one that I get to do, but people can create those moments all over the place in their own way.
Well, that's a great point. And I hope we never lose the ability to do that, because if the hope's gone, what the hell are we doing? Right. And that's during O Canada too, for everybody listening up in Canada. We don't disrespect that.
We love our Canadian neighbors, and I love the Canadian anthem.
Yeah, it's a good one. So Mike and Christy, unless you have any other thoughts, I wanted to close this out. Sorry, go ahead. Lauren, did you have something
Special
else?
thank you to both of you. I think you're very inspirational for a lot of, and perfect for this podcast, because the parents who are tuning in every week, listening to us, you've answered a lot of the questions that we get in our mailbag of, especially of the perspective on the game and not losing sight of what the goal is, what the destination is, and to enjoy the journey. So thank you both very much.
And
Mike,
win
good.
Every circumstance.
And then
possible.
win them all.
Yeah,
Then
right.
Or you're grounded.
Right. What did we learn today? That the score matters. And
Score matters. And shoot the puck. Shoot the puck.
Shoot it.
Shoot the puck.
Skate.
Yeah. They forget.
Skate.
Just get a generic. Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Mike, anything from you? Before
Thank you both very much.
No, it's really cool to have you guys on, and I think yeah, and good luck to your son and the rest of the family whatever they're pursuing. I think it sounds like you guys are running. Must have a nice full calendar on the fridge. So good luck.
Well, Todd, Lauren, it's been an honor for me and Christy and Mike as well. This has been a really special episode. I really enjoyed it. So that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Remember, you can listen to this and every other episode we've ever done at ourkidsplayhockey.com. If you want to join in the conversation, head over to our private Facebook group. You have to answer a couple yes or no questions. It's called Guess It. Our Kids Play Hockey, and you can dive into the conversation with us and all the great other hockey parents, families, and players that we have there. But without any other ado, you guys enjoy your hockey week. We'll see you next week on Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.